Audiobook Academy Biography presents Elizabeth Blackwell. In the United States, Elizabeth Blackwell was the first woman to complete medical school. During her lifetime, she rose to prominence as a major public health activist. Elizabeth Blackwell, who was she? Elizabeth Blackwell was a British physician and the first woman in the United States to acquire a medical degree. Her family relocated to the United States when she was a child, where she began her career as a teacher. In spite of the outcry, she went to medical school and graduated first in her class, despite significant opposition. In the late 1860s, she founded a medical school for women and returned to England, where she established a private practice. Education and training. On February 3, 1821, in Bristol, England, the physician and educator Blackwell was born. Blackwell was raised in a liberal environment that emphasized education, and she went on to become the nation's first female medical school graduate. A year after moving to New York City in 1832, Blackwell and her family relocated to Cincinnati, Ohio. All three of Blackwell's older sisters and her mother worked as teachers to make ends meet after her father's death in 1838. Achievements of the past. At the age of 23, Blackwell had a terminally ill friend who was ashamed to see male doctors because she wished she had a female doctor. As a result of her friend's statements and the fact that she was going through a love affair at the time, Blackwell decided to get into medicine. A doctor's training did not come without its challenges. Before being accepted in 1847 to Geneva Medical College in upstate New York, she studied independently with doctors, as did other women at the time. The school body viewed her admission as an administrative prank. A serious Blackwell nevertheless came up to continue her studies, and her admission created community controversy due to the stereotypes of that period regarding women obtaining a formal degree in medicine. Blackwell she was sometimes shunned by colleagues and patients alike, yet some vulgar male students were said to have grown more serious and mature after spending time with her. Despite numerous obstacles, Blackwell remained steadfast, garnering the admiration of many of her contemporaries and eventually publishing her doctoral thesis on typhus fever. In 1849, Blackwell became the first woman to graduate from medical school in the modern era after being ranked first in her class. New York City's medical facilities. Blackwell made his way back to Europe, where he found work in both London and Paris. During her time at La Maternité, she became infected with an illness that rendered her blind in one eye, thus she could no longer practice surgery. Due to stereotypes of the time, Blackwell returned to New York City and formed his own private practice. The New York Dispensary for the Poor Women and Children was established by her in the mid-1850s. Emily Blackwell, a surgeon, and Marie Zakrzewska, a physician, helped Blackwell create the New York Infirmary for Indigent Women and Children in 1857, an institution that would exist for more than a century. She became the first woman to be placed on the British Medical Register at the end of the decade while lecturing in England. In 1861, under the leadership of President Abraham Lincoln, Blackwell helped form the U.S. Sanitary Commission, which aimed to improve sanitary conditions for soldiers and civilians alike. In the late 1860s, Blackwell established a medical school exclusively for females, the first of its kind in the country. Women's Medical College of New York infirmary students had a rigorous, well-organized education because of this. Sophia Jex-Blake, who would go on to found a women's medical school in London, was briefly a student at the school. Blackwell returned to England shortly after the establishment of the college. The London School of Medicine for Women hired her as a lecturer and she opened her own practice. She ended up moving to Hastings, England, finally. Death. Elizabeth Blackwell passed away on May 31, 1910, at her home in New York City. She was a pioneer in the medical profession for women, and her autobiography Pioneer Work in Opening the Medical Profession to Women, published in 1895, was one of her many works. Thank you for listening in Audiobook Academy. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button for more content like this. See you in next video.